of the Equality Academy and singer-songwriter. It is my privilege to welcome you to this wonderful day of debate, celebration and activity. Now, for the sake of people who are hard of hearing, please, will you stop talking at the back of the room? Thank you very much. I would appreciate, I know this is a networking day, an exciting day, and people want to talk. Keep your voices down. People who are hard of hearing will be able to participate in this debate. This day has been made possible by the support of Brighton and Hove City Council and, most importantly, untiring efforts of the International Women's Day Committee and many, many volunteers who have worked behind the scenes and are here today, as they were yesterday, enabling us to all enjoy and challenge ourselves. Thank you to them. And happy 40th birthday to the Brighton and Hove Women's Centre. I want to extend a very warm welcome to our wonderful panel of Caroline Lucas MP, Abigail Sinclair of Field of Dreams, Helen Charles of All Sorts, Stephanie Davis-Arai of No More Page 3, and Lily Evans of Twitter Youth Feminist Army. What have I done to deserve the privilege of holding the space between these five fabulous women? Well, I just want to give a little bit of background here, because not everybody here will know who I am. As a young girl and a woman, I was perplexed by the inequality that I saw around me and experienced, and inspired by the promise of liberation. I got involved in feminist, anti-racist, gay and anti-imperialist movements. Decades have rolled by. I've become a diversity professional. I've got spirituality. I've had a child, got hitched and moved from Brighton to East Sussex, which is apparently what happens when you grow up. Yet my original curiosity about what is it in us that creates oppression and how we can unlearn it has persisted. When I first visited Brighton's Women's Centre in the late 1980s, it was in a tiny room in St George's Mews. Student loans had not yet been introduced. The internet was virtually unknown. Section 28 was still in force. The word Muslim was not yet synonymous with terrorists. It was lawful to discriminate against disabled people. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister, and feminism was not yet a dirty word. Well, it was with her, but not with anybody else. It's very important to debate the F word, but a word is just a label. The real question is, for our panelists, are things really getting better for women and for the relationship between men and women? Today, they will help us shed light on this, and so will you. Please ask lots of questions as we go through the session. Now here's the crux. I just want to set this out for you. Women are not a minority. We are more than 50% of the global population. As a group, we do more work than men, but we earn and own significantly less. We have less access overall to education and positions of power in society. Women are definitely not all the same. Have a look around you today. We vary in every possible way, by nation, by class, by economic status, by colour, by ethnicity, by religion, by language, by disability, by age, by sexual orientation, by migration, and more. But there are still some common themes. The division of labour in the home. Who does what in the home? The gender segregation of the labour market and the pay gap between men and women. The age-old question of who's responsible for raising children. The problem of gendered violence and pornography, and the objectification and control of women's sexuality and reproductive capacity. These are common themes for women globally. Commonality and diversity. What rich soil for the tilling. Let me not keep them from you any longer. We will open the digging with MP Caroline Lucas. I'll say a little bit about Caroline, even though all of you probably know more about her than I do, actually, being in Brighton. You would expect Caroline to be engaged in environmental issues, but she's far from a single-issue politician. Her political work takes in fuel poverty, nuclear disarmament, sustainable housing, animal welfare, equality, legal aid, domestic violence, pornography, sex trafficking and prostitution, and drugs policy. She's a passionate supporter of women's organisations locally, and her recent work includes supporting campaigns and initiatives against pornography and violence. Caroline's career is littered with awards. I'm not going to list them all because I'll make her blush. But what I could say, Caroline, is that I feel your glow. And as part of, I'm going to be cheeky here, as part of the white middle-class heterosexual non-disabled minority, you've done incredibly well. Would you care to share with us how you've done it? Thank you, Caroline, representing it.
I wish I could sing the way you just did, I'll tell you. I just want to say how honoured I am to be part of this panel. It's an amazing panel. And I think our remit was to say about our own journeys to where we are. And I was asked to say a few words about my work in Parliament as well. The discrimination that still is very visible in Parliament when it comes to the number of women there. And just through a few words, I guess, on my own journey into politics. It was the anti-nuclear campaigning back in the 1980s which got me first involved in politics. I was a very active member of the campaign for nuclear disarmament and used to regularly visit Brighton Commons. And I don't know if any of you can say, but there were those times when you'd have to get up at about 5 o'clock in the morning to get the CND coach from wherever you were to Brighton. And it would be cold and dark, and at 5 o'clock in the morning you would be thinking, why on earth am I doing this? And then you would get on that bus with all of these other amazing women, and you would go to Brighton. And by the time you were on that same bus coming back, you would feel that those women in that bus were your closest best friends that you would go through hell of a high water for. Because there is nothing more powerful in my experience than being with other women on a common cause. And that's what Brighton showed me, I think, which was that power of a shared cause. And we came singing all our way back to Exeter, as I lived in that place then. It felt to me that we could do anything. And we did get rid of the weapons of Brighton Common in the end, but we still have our work cut out for us. And as you will know, we have a government that is committed to spending £100 billion on replacing tried nuclear weapons, which seems to me an obscenity, frankly, when we don't have enough money to pay basic people to do a decent job. We don't have enough money, it seems the government will tell us, to be able to provide things like disability benefits for people who absolutely need and deserve it. I've just been passed a piece of paper that says, ask the people at the back to be quiet, so I will try, but I said you might need another musical interlude to make the point more effectively. It was in anti-nuclear campaigning that I first took my first non-violent direct action as well. It was up at Brighton, where nuclear weapons are based in Scotland. And again, CND had organised one of their wonderful bus trips up to Brighton. And in Scotland, when you take that kind of action, basically sitting peacefully in the road, the charge that you are charged with is a breach of the peace. And I must say, it really struck me as extremely ironic that women sitting peacefully in the road in front of these weapons of mass destruction were the ones who were deemed to be breaching the peace rather than those nuclear weapons themselves. But it seems to me that activism involves all kinds of different actions. I've chosen a political route, but obviously I think that there is an activist role as well for all of the different movements that exist out there, and indeed for non-violent direct action as well. I was going to say a little bit about Parliament and my work there. If we're thinking about the need to get more women in places of influence and power in Parliament, ought to be the place where we look for inspiration instead of looking at Parliament and feeling that there is a huge amount of work still to be done. I mean, there are fully 3 black women or LGBT women or women from different socioeconomic backgrounds. It means absolutely making Parliament look more like the people it's meant to represent. Because if we don't do that, I genuinely believe we have a real crisis of democracy. And that's why I propose things like job sharing. Now, when I proposed that in Parliament, you would have thought I proposed, bringing down the House of Commons to its knees, the response that I got. But it seems to me that that's always the response you get when you propose something new, and it's certainly the response that people have had when they propose job sharing in other professions. But if we wanted to make it easier for carers, for people with disabilities, for people who've got other parts of their lives as well, to also be policymakers, then it feels to me that we should be exploring job sharing as well as a practical way towards doing that. I'm going to just end with a few words about what I think the suffragettes can tell us and teach us in our fight for more women in every area of public life. And for me, I guess the suffragette struggle is about finding our voice and being constantly prepared to speak up and speak out. It's about being courageous. Those suffragettes who were imprisoned suffered force feeding among many other things. I never really understood what force feeding meant in reality until I saw it on television. Someone, a really brave actor, was willing to undergo the torture of force feeding to demonstrate what it was like, and he was drawing attention to the people still in Guantanamo Bay who were subjected to force feeding. But it's not just ramming food down your throat, which some of us might actually feel quite a nice thing to do sometimes. It is the most hideous torture where the tubes are pushed down the back of your throat and yanked in and out several times a day, and it is the most terrible torture, and those suffragettes underwent that regularly. I'm being told my time is up, so I'm just going to end with one point, because I think suffragettes teach us not to give up. They teach us to use our voices, and they teach us to be courageous. And I want to end with a letter from a woman called Bertha Brewster, who wrote the Daily Telegraph in 1913, and I think we can learn something from her uncompromising words. She said, "Sir, everyone seems to agree upon the necessity of putting a stop to suffrage outrages, but no one seems certain how to do so. There are two